Hello everyone, welcome back to our CIS1060. Today we're gonna go over our project number 5. Before we start, please make sure you download this full document in your device. And first is instruction, the workbook, and also for today we need to download these two documents because we want to use that to apply the hyperlink function. So after you have that, let's get started. We always start by adding the file name, change the 1 to 2. We go to the File tab and go to the Save As. Here is where we can rename our file name. So we change the 1 to 2, and then we can hit the Enter button. It's gonna lead us back to the first worksheet in this workbook. And if we take a look at the Save to this PC area, you can see now we successfully changed the 1 to 2. And next, let's get started for the project steps. Steps number 1, Santiago is an administrative coordinator for a company, and he's using Excel workbook to plan the company's exhibitions at the industry trade shows and asks you for complete the plan. Go to the trade shows worksheet, that is the second worksheet, and Santiago asks you to correct the hyperlink and insert other to provide access to external information. In the cell D4, added a hyperlink to use this name as the display text to show the full name of the location. So I recommend that you open these two documents in the same time. In this case, we can copy the content from the instruction directly and paste that in this worksheet. So I copied the Baru Exhibition Center. Make sure you select all this content, and then I press Ctrl C to let the system know that I want to copy this content. Then I go back to the worksheet and I go to the cell D4. If I one-click cell D4 currently in the formula bar, that is show what is the display text, and I want to change that to this one. So since I copied the full content, the Baru Exhibition Center, so I would like to select this all, and then press Ctrl and V in the same time. So I paste the content, the full content from the instruction. Then I hit the Enter button. So now you can see in the cell D4, the current display text is a Baru Exhibition Center. So I finished step number 1. Step number 2, in the cell F6, create a hyperlink to an email address as a follow. I want to, step number A, insert a link to the following email address. Step number B, use this email address as the text to display. So I want to put this email address here, and also I want to apply a link for that. So I first select this email address, Control C to copy that. Then I go back to the workbook. If I click cell F6 and press Control V, the system gonna put the content, and if you take a look, it gonna match it gonna keep the previous format. That is not I want, so I will like just remove this content, Control A, and then delete that, and I go to the formula bar and Control V to paste the content I copy, and I hit Enter button. Now you can see I put this email address there. But if I take a look, oh, the system already put a hyperlink to that. Why it happened? Because if we take a look at all the content under the email header, you can see all of the email address. They come with a hyperlink, but I want to add it. I want to practice this step. So how to do that? So even I already have an email address and hyperlink here. If I right click, you can see here is a added hyperlink option in this menu. If I go there, that is the full menu. We can adjust the text to display and also let the system know what we want to put there. So in this case, we want to use that email address as the text to display, so it already there. Otherwise, you can just paste this email address there. And also because that is the email address, the system already detect that is the email address. So the system automatically go to the email address as the link to function. And let me show you what if we just like paste the email address here. The system gonna automatically put the mail to column there as the action required for this email address. And if we hit the OK button, and now you should have an email address with the hyperlink. And let me show you how that hyperlink works. If I click this hyperlink, the system gonna automatically go to the email, and you can see the system says that we want to send an email to that email address. So that is how the hyperlink work. And next, step number 3, in the cell B10, create a hyperlink to a Word document containing the description of the trend show as follows. Step number 8, link the file, that is a Word document, link to that file. And also step number B, use this detail show description as the text to display. Step number C, use the review trend show details as the screen tips text. So how do that is we first go to the cell B10, this one, and we right click that. You can see in the menu there is a link. Actually, if the system didn't like to put the hyperlink to this email address, you should also have a link function in the menu. I mean, link option in the menu. So this time, I right click the cell B10, right click and go to the link, and here the last step, that is email address. So this time the system just automatically lead us to the email address, but we want to link to a file. So we go to the first option, link to, we go to the existing file or the web page. So we go there. And the system put the detail show description because we already have this word here. So that is a text to display, and it matched the requirement detail show description. So we don't need to make change for the text to display. But we want to link that to this Word document. So we find that one, support Word document. Because I saved that in this folder, so the system, if you take a look at that, you can see all the document for project number 5, I saved that in the same folder. So, and that is a current folder. So that's why I can easily to find this support document. And that is a current folder. And we don't need to go to the recent files. So we go to the current folder and select the support Word document. And next, we also want to add the review trend show detail as the screen tip text. So you can see here is a button named the screen tip. If I go there, that is where we can add the screen tip text. I copy the review trend shows details from the instruction, copy that, and then I put it here, Control V, to put the review trend shows details here, and then I hit OK button. And I finish all this on 3 steps, and then I hit OK button. Now you can see I put a link to cell B10. And if I click that one time, you can see I go to the Word document. That is how the link function works. And next, step number 4, in the cell B11, create a hyperlink to another worksheet as follows. Link to the cell A1 in the US shows worksheet of the current workbook. And step number B, use the projected expenses as the display text. So I want to add a link to the cell B11. I first select cell B11, right click that. In the menu, I go to the link, and here it's lead us back to the existing file. That is our last step. But in this case, we want to link to the cell A1 in the US shows worksheet, and that is located in the current workbook. So I want to change that to place in this document. And for the text to display, it just like keep the content in the cell B11 that is a projected expenses, and then match the requirement, use the projected expenses as the display text, so we don't need to change that. And we want to, for here, type the cell reference that is A1, so we don't need to change anything for this box. But that cell should be located in the US shows. So currently that is in the trend show. We want to switch to US show, so we choose US show. And then I hit OK. And let's see what's gonna happen since we apply the link to that. So if I click the cell B11, it's gonna lead us to the US show worksheet and also located in the cell A1. And that is how this works. Step number 5, go to the Houston worksheet. Santiago wants you to make the following change in the 3 trend shows expenses worksheet, which have the same structure. Step number 8, group the Houston, Las Vegas, and Orlando worksheets so you can format them at the same time. So let's take a look for the Houston, Las Vegas, and Orlando worksheet first. So the Houston, Las Vegas, and Orlando. So basically, the structure of these 3 worksheets are the same, but the name for the cell B3 are different. So Orlando, Las Vegas, and Houston. First, we want to group these 3 worksheets. How to do that? In the sheet tab, so currently we're in the Houston, and we want to group these 3 together. How we do that? We first select Houston worksheet, and then we press the Shift button in the keyboard, and then we click one time for the Orlando worksheet. So now the 3 worksheets are grouped. And step number B, in the cell B2, enter projected expenses as the worksheet title. So we copy the projected expenses from the instruction. Select that, press Ctrl C, then go back to the worksheet, and we go to cell B2, and we put the content in the formula bar, and then we press Enter button. So now we have these projected expenses in the cell B2. And since we already grouped these 3 worksheets, let's see what's gonna happen for the other 2 worksheets. You can see the system also put the projected expenses in the cell B2 for the Las Vegas and Orlando worksheet as well. And that is how it's gonna happen when we group multiple worksheets in the same time. And next, step number C, in the cell B2, apply the shading color Aqua Accents 5, lighter 80%. That is located in the 9th column, 2nd row in the theme color palette. So we first select the cell B2, and we want to apply the shading color. So the shading color, also known as the background color or the fill color. So we go to the Home tab and go to the font group. And this icon stands for the fill color. So if we hit the arrow, it's gonna show us the full menu for the theme colors. And for that one, is located in 9th column, 2nd row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9th column. This is the 1st row, and this is the 2nd row. So this one. If we point that, you can see the screen tip pop up. That is an Aqua Accent 5 lighter 80%. Then match the requirements. So we click that. And now we successfully apply this shading color to the 3 worksheet in the cell B2. And the next, step number D, in the range C15 through E15, apply the currency number format within 0 decimal place and the $sign as a symbol. So we first want to find the target group, which is a C15 through E15. So we first group this range, and then we want to apply the currency number format with that. So we go to the Home tab, and in the number, if we click this arrow, that's arrow name the dialog launcher. So if we click that one time, you should have a full menu for the format cells. And in the category, let's find the currency. So the currency is the 3rd one. And we want to change the decimal to 0, so we change the 2 to 0. And we also want a dollar sign as a symbol. So in the symbol, let's choose the second one, the dollar sign, and then we can hit the OK button. So now we successfully format this range of content. And next, step number 6, with Houston, Las Vegas, and Orlando worksheets still grouped, so they are still grouped right now. Add formulas to the worksheet as follows. Step number A in the cell C11 here. Enter a formula using the sum function to calculate the total expenses for booth 1, which is the range C5 through C10. C5 through C10, that stands for the booth 1. So we first go to the cell C11 here. We double click, make that active, and then start putting equal sign here. And we would like to put a sum, SUM. That is the first one. We double click that. And the system gonna automatically put a parenthesis here. And next, we want to enter the range for that. That is from the C5 through C10. So we put C5 column, C10 stands for this group of range, and then we hit enter button. So now the system helping us to calculate the sum for the C5 through C10, and that is the total expenses for the booth 1. Next, step number B, fill the range D11 through F11 with the formula in the cell C11 to calculate the total expenses for the booth 2 and 3 and the total for the location. So we want to use this formula and apply that to the D11 through F11. So here is a corner handle. Let's drag that to the end. And you can see now we fill this empty cell, but why it keep the same number? If we click that one time, you can see even the number is same, but the formula is different. I mean, the range is different. For example, the cell D11, it changed the column to the D, but keep the row number. And don't worry about that. It happened. If you want to refresh that, you can double click the number, the cell. You can see now you should have the full formula for that. And now if you hit enter button, the system gonna fresh. So currently we will have the correct number for each cell. And that is how it works. Next, step number C. In the cell C15, enter a formula without using a function to divide the total expenses for booth 1 by the square footage. So in the cell C15, we want to create a formula by ourselves. So we double click cell C15 and start putting equal sign here. And in this case, we want to divide the total expenses by the square footage. So the total expenses stands, we use the C11 to stands for that. We just calculate that. So C11 and divide by C14, that stands for C14 stands for the square footage. C14 stands for the square footage. And how to how to calculate the division. We use the slash to let the system know that we want to use the C11 to divide by C14. So the slash stands for the division in the Excel. And now we hit the enter button. So the system helping us to calculate the cost per square footage. And next, step number 15. Step number D. Fill the range D15 through E15 with the formula in the cell C15 to calculate the cost per square foot for both 2 and 3. So since we already have this formula here, and let's drag the corner handle to E15. So now we should successfully copy the formula, but change the range for them. And if you want to refresh the result, you can double click that and hit enter button. So now you should have the correct result for this cell. And the next, ungroup the worksheet and then check to confirm the three worksheets contain the formatting and the formulas from the step 5 and step 6. First, we want to ungroup this worksheet. How we do that is we can just like currently we are in the cell in the worksheet Las Vegas, and we can press Control and click that and click the Orlando or click the Houston. So now you can see they are ungrouped. And if we take a look at them, even before we only apply the function in one worksheet, because we group them, the system gonna apply the same function in the same cell, but in different worksheet. And if we take a look at the formula, that is what we applied, but the number is different because the number basically is related within the current worksheet. So that is how the group work. Next, step number 7. Santiago asks you to create a copy for the formula Orlando worksheet as follows to use for the projected expenses for attending the Paris trade shows. Step number 8, create a copy of the Orlando worksheet and use the Paris as the name of the new worksheet. So we want to use this Orlando worksheet as a template, and based on that, we want to copy that. We first go to the Orlando worksheet, and here now we are located in the worksheet tab, and we right click that. You can see in the menu here is option move or copy. So we choose that one, and it pop up a menu that says that there's option create a copy. So we select that. Basically, we're gonna copy this worksheet, and we want to Paris. Second, step number B, move the Paris worksheet so it appears between the Orlando and the US shows worksheet. That means that we want to move that before the US show. So we select the before this US show. So now if we hit OK button, the system gonna have a new worksheet, the Orlando 2, and that is the same as the original Orlando worksheet. And we also want to rename that as a Paris. So I copy the Paris from the instruction, select that, Control C, and go back to the workbook, double click the tab, the Orlando 2. So now I active this, the name box, and I Control V to paste what I copy and hit enter button. So now I rename this worksheet as Paris. And step number C, in the cell B3, edit the text to read Paris as the train show location. So I want to adjust the B3. I first select the Paris from the instruction and then go to the B3. Currently, that is Orlando. I double click that, or I just one click that, and then go to the formula bar to paste what I copy and hit enter button. So now I have the Paris in the cell B3. Next, step number D, clear the content of the range C5 through E10. So I first select the content E5 through C5 through E10, this range of content. Then I hit the delete from the keyboard. So now you can see I move this content in the Paris worksheet. Also, for the column total, since I use the all the number is actually the range is from the one we delete. So you can see the related content for total, and they already be 0. And for the cost per square footage, you can see since the number we use to calculate that also from the content we delete, the number also becomes 0. And that is how step number 7 work. Step number 8, go to the US show worksheet. That is the last one. And Santiago wants you to consolidate the data for each of the US trend shows as follows. In the cell B5, enter a formula without using the function that referenced the cell B5 in the Houston workbook. Worksheet. First, we go to the cell B5, that this one, and we want to enter a formula without using a function, but the reference is actually the cell B5 in the Houston worksheet. How we do that is we double click the cell B5, make it active, start with the equal sign, and then the B5 is from the Houston worksheet, so I go to the Houston worksheet, and I one click the cell B5 from the Houston worksheet. So in the formula bar, you can see here, there is a Houston, exclamation mark, and B5. So that means that the B5 is actually from the Houston worksheet. Once I have that in the formula bar, I hit the enter button. So now I go back to the US shows worksheet, and I have the B5, the content from the Houston, and that is in the B5 in the US shows worksheet. And next, I want to fill in the range B6 through B10 with the formula in the cell B5, but filling without formatting. So since now I have this, since I have this content B5 from the Houston, I can, if I apply the autofill, so I drag the corner handle to B10, let's see what's gonna happen. So the system gonna if we apply the fill handle, the Excel gonna keeps the worksheets reference the same, but only adjust the cells number. So that's why all these value are put from the Houston worksheet. So if we take a look at the Houston worksheet, that is the same. And we want to fill in without formatting. So once we have this content there, here is icon pop-up, that's autofill option. So we click that and choose the fill without formatting. So now you can see we have this content that is from the Houston worksheet, and also we change the format as the US shows one. Next, in the cell C5, enter a formula using the sum function, 3D reference, and group the worksheet that total value from the cell C5 in the Houston worksheet to the Orlando worksheet. And how to do that is we first go to the cell C5 here. We double click that and start with the put equal sign. And we want to apply the sum function. So we type SUM, and you can find that in the first one, we double click. So we have the sum parenthesis in the formula bar. And in this case, we want to calculate the total for all the C5 from the Houston to Orlando. How to do that is we first go to the Houston and we find C5, that is this one. If I click that one, and then I also want to calculate the others, C5 from the Las Vegas and Orlando. How to do that is I just like press the shift button and click the Orlando. So now you can see in the formula bar, we calculate the sum for the C5. That C5 is from the Houston worksheet to Orlando worksheet. So that is how the 3D reference work. And then I hit enter button. So now you can see I have this number in the cell C5, and that is the total C5 from the Houston to Orlando. And next, step number D, fill the range C6 through C10 with the formula in the cell C5 and filling without formatting. So I just drag the corner handle to C10. Once I drag that, you can see I have this content there. And also I want to fill in without formatting, so I click the autofill option and select the one field without formatting. So you can see, since I apply the autofill for that, if I take a look at the C6, actually that calculate all the C6 from the Houston worksheet to Orlando worksheet. So that is how the 3D reference work. And the next step number E, fill the range D5 through E10 with the formula and formatting in the range C5 through C10. So since I already have this content there, and I can just simply apply the autofill to E10. And now I successfully have this content there. And if I randomly click them, you can see all of them apply the 3D reference. And the number is from the Houston worksheet to Orlando worksheet. And next, step number 9, San Diego has a workbook containing the total budget amounts for each trend show's expenses. He asks you to add the budget data to the range G5 through G10 by creating external reference as follows. Step number 8, open a file support Excel workbook and go to the US shows worksheet in the project workbook. So I first go to the folder where I saved that one, support Excel workbook. I open that and I link the G5 in the US shows worksheet to the G5 in the trend shows budget worksheet. So this worksheet, the support one, that name is the support budget worksheet. How to do that is I first go back to the one I'm working on, this one. I want to link the G5 to here. For here, I want to link to this one. So I double click the G5, put the equal sign here. Then I one click the cell G5 from the support workbook, and then I hit enter button. So now you can see if I click that, now I put the G5 in the support workbook as a reference in the current worksheet. So when two workbooks are open, the Excel allows us to create an external reference that links to a cell in one workbook to a cell in another workbook. So that is how this step works. Next, step number C, link each cell in the range G6 through G10 in the US shows worksheets to the corresponding cells in the trend shows budget worksheets in the support workbook. So how we do that is we want put this content to here, and also we want to keep the link, we want to keep the original reference for that. So how we do that is we can just simply select this range of content from the support workbook and Control C to copy that. And then we go back to our working workbook. And then we go to the G6, that is where we want to start. And we Control V to paste the content. We just copy. But if you take a look, they look different, but don't worry. Let's go to the paste option. Here at the end, you can see other paste option. Here is one named the paste link. So we click that. Now we have the same number as the support workbook, and also we keep the reference. So that is how step number 9 works. Next, step number 10. San Diego start to create a name range in this workbook. And ask you to complete the work. Create a defined name for the range C5 through E5 using the exhibited as the range name. So first we want to create a defined name for this group of content. How to do that is we first select the C5 through E5. C5 through E5. Once we select them, here is a name box. That is where we can rename this group of content. So we can put the exhibited here. So we copied exhibited from the instruction and paste that here. And then we hit enter button. So now this group of content are named as expected. And next, step number 11, based on the range B6 through E10, create a name for the range C6 through E10 using the value shown in the left column. How to do that is we can, so basically, for example, we want to name this group of content as a promotion and this as a shipping and this as a show service. And there is a simple way to do that is we select the one we want to use as the name for the range of content. We select them. So select from B6 through A10, we select them all, and then we go to the formula. There is a group name define name, and there is an option named the create from selection. If we click that one time, you can see this box pop up and create a name from selection, create a name from the value in the left column. So basically that let the system know that we want to use this as the name for the right part of the group of content. So once we hit OK, let's see what's gonna happen. So now if I select the C7 through E7, the system know we wanna, so this group number already named as a shipping. And what about the C8 through E8, that is a show service. So in that case, we don't have to manually type. So that is how step number 11 work. Step number 12, apply the define name booth 1 total, booth 2 total, and booth 3 total to the formula range in the C11 through E11. So if we take a look at the name box, you can see here is a three group of number already named as a booth 1 total, booth 2 total, and booth 3 total. If we take a look at the booth 1 total, so this group of number named as a booth 1 total, and that is from the cell C5 through C10. If you take a look at the, where is it? The C11, that is calculate the total for the C5 through C10. That is exactly the booth 1 total. So in this case, we want to change the range from the C5 through C10, but using the B1 total. So we just change the range C5 through C10. We type the booth. Once we type the BOOT, so the system gonna recommend that we can put the 3 there. So we just double click the first one, booth 1 total, and we press enter button. Now, even the number is the same, but if you take a look at the formula, you can see we changed the range of content to the booth 1 total. That is the name of this group of number. And we just keep doing the very similar stuff for the D11 and E11. So we change this range to booth 2 total, double click and hit enter button. And for the E11, change this content to booth 3 total, and we can hit enter button. So now we successfully changed the formula and we place the booth 1 total, booth 2 total, booth 3 total stand for the previous range of number. And step number 13, in the cell F11, add the defined name to use the total expenses as the range name, which is more descriptive name. So if I click the cell F11 is already named as a total, and I want to use this name instead of that name. How to do that is I don't recommend that you do that directly in the name box, because if we do that, we're gonna apply a new name for the F11. So for F11, the system gonna have a two name for that. One is a total and one is total expenses. Instead, let's go to the formula tab, and here, define names group, we go to the name manager, and we can find currently that is a total for cell 11. And we can edit that. So we added that and we want to change that to total expenses. So we copy the total expenses from the instruction and put that in the name box. And then we hit OK. So now once we hit the cell 11, now the latest name is a total expenses. And that is what we want. Cell 14 in the cell F15. Enter a formula without using a function that divides the total expenses by the total square footage. So now the total expenses, we use the total expenses as the name for that. So in this formula, we can just directly use that to represent the total expenses. So how we do that is we first go to cell F15 here, double click that, start with the equal sign, and we put total. Once we simply type the TO, you can see we can find the total expenses here. We double click that and slash the total square footage, which is F14, and then we hit enter button. So now we have the we have the what is that? That stands for the cost per square footage for the total. And next, step number 15. Bring external link to the support Excel workbook and replace the formula in the range G5 through G10 of the US shell worksheets within statics value. So now basically we want to remove all the link for this group of content, but we want to keep the value for that. How to do that is we can go to the, let's go to the data tab. We go to the data tab, and here is group name, queries, and connection. And here you can find an option named the workbook links, and we click that one time, and you can see here, put up menu workbook link. And in this one, we currently have the support workbook as the reference for that. And we can go here and select the break links. So once we click that, the system gonna pop up reminder, break links cannot be undone. Are you sure you want to break the links? And let's just click the break links. So now if we click any cell according to this group of content, you can see we only have the value for that, but now there is no link or reference for this group of content. And that is how step number 15 work. So before you close your workbook, make sure you save that. And then let's try to submit it and see what is our score. So I will like drag that to this same gauge system and submit it. And then I can take a look for my grade summary report. So for this case, I get 20 out of 20. If you have any question, you can just let me know. You can email me or go to my office hour. Otherwise, thank you so much for your attention, and I will see you later. Thank you.